This story about James Charles is just a little bit of the James Charles saga, drama tube, whatever you want to call it. If you guys go on YouTube, you will find so many like comprehensive stories about James Charles and the man he is in this entire YouTube influencer world. Unfortunately, this is not that video. I will not be doing a whole deep dive onto James Charles, but I promise you, if you go onto YouTube, you will find stories about him. And this story is just a little bit of what James Charles is, and it's a pretty unfortunate one. About a month ago, Kayla Malik released a video called He Doesn't Love You. And in this video, she reveals a lot of detail about her abusive relationship with her now ex-boyfriend, Evan Johnson. I saw the video when it first came out. I actually saw the first like few minutes of it, maybe the first 5-10 minutes of it. And it was actually quite triggering. And I stopped watching it, but I was very much aware of this video. Kayla goes into really explicit details about everything that Evan did to her, from being very abusive, putting hands on her, from just being insulting and just being just literally so freaking awful. I don't want to talk about her video in this video because I think she deserves her voice to be listened to. That video right now is sitting at 6 million views, so it's doing a lot of numbers just because a lot of people probably can relate to her and what she's going through. And with that video, Evan, her ex-boyfriend, actually got arrested. I think in early April is when he got arrested. The reason why James is even involved in this story is because Kayla and James are friends, and some would even say they are close friends.
I'm literally with James Charles right now, and we're about to fix this monstrosity.
Did you say monstrosity? Monstrosity.
Perfectly. Oh my.
You guys are welcome.
Yeah. Now it's time to fix the eyeliner.
We're gonna use Create Paint, my brand new paints, in the shade Ink, my J4 brush.
God. I want like the little silver.
So as you can tell there, they obviously are friends and they've hung out a few times and they know of each other quite well. When this whole video about Evan came out, it came to Kayla's attention that James was not friends with Evan.
I can't get into too much right now, but I found out at Coachella literally last weekend that a close friend of mine had basically really fucked me over in ways I could have never expected, and I got sent proof and receipts, and that person admitted it to me that they had done it.
She's being very vague right now because I think in the middle of all this, there is a court session and hearings regarding the charges that were brought against Evan. So that's why she's being a little bit vague about the story, because I don't think she can actually talk about it too much.
I don't want to make, the thing is I don't want to talk about it because right now, for at least because I'm still healing, court's coming.
You're dealing with a lot.
And then also for somebody I considered a close friend to really fucked me over and done things I could never do to a person.
Do you think you'll say this person's name at some point or no?
How James came into this whole entire story is so freaking weird, and it just gets weirder and weirder as the story goes on. So I want to prepare you for that. Going back to the video for a second, another thing that came out with this video is a friend of Evan's named Zach. He went onto his TikTok and just started kind of spilling the tea on what was going on with Evan at this point. And to expand on that, Evan flew all the way to Canada to talk to another TikToker named Be Better. And in almost an hour interview, Zach had a lot to say about the relationship. I said it, relationship. I'm not using that word relationship lightly because as the story gets more revealed, you will know what the heck is actually happening.
Coming out, but there was an influencer, a really big influencer, that was on the phone with him and was telling him that the best thing for him to do is to stay quiet, but go ahead and record some videos of him explaining his side of the story and the truth. And he says this is going to only help your case, so go ahead and get these recorded as soon as possible.
So a big influencer that he's talking about here is obviously, again, it's James Charles. But let us remember that James is friends with Kayla. Right? They're close friends. Apparently they're best friends, but he's friends with her nonetheless. When they broke up, James, for some reason, went around and started talking to Evan. and giving him advice on how to do and what to do because of this because of this thing. You find out that your friend has been abused by this man, and your first thing to do is go and give the abuser advice on how to not be canceled. That doesn't make any sense, James. So Evan and James became close, and they were talking every single day, like Zach alleges here.
Use Instagram as his Snapchat. And I didn't know, like, was not aware, like, why does James not have Snapchat? Like, why is he using Instagram photos, sending back and forth?
I can tell you why he doesn't have Snapchat, because he was caught texting 16-year-old boys on Snapchat. That's what he was canceled for.
Wow.
So
This is one of many instances of James getting in trouble for texting minors. And James right now is 26, I believe. At the time he was texting minors, I think he was like 20, and he was texting 16-year-olds on the side. So that's one of many instances of James getting in trouble for texting minors. As Zach says here, James and Evan were friends. But what really happened in this relationship / friendship? Zach has a lot more to say.
That was his go-to person. You got to think that Evan had me, but I'm not a celebrity. The only person he had after losing Kayla that he felt that he would be able to stay in the industry was James Charles. So he had to keep James Charles as close to him as possible.
Evan also has his own agenda when it comes to being friends with James, right? Because you have Kayla, who, I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but she has over 15 million followers on TikTok, and she has a pretty big following. So he probably was using Kayla the whole time to be with her, and then so Evan needed to latch onto someone else, and that the closest proximity was James Charles. So Zach goes on to give us more and more. I'm telling you, when I tell you Zach spilled so much tea in this entire interview, he really did. And here's what he had to say.
So we get back, and little did James know that I actually went home with Evan. And when we get to Evan's house and in his room, Evan message him. They were messaging the whole time anyways. And he lets James know, like, hey, I'm like 5 minutes away from home. Okay, so letting James know, get ready and stuff. I don't know what, I was like confused by the surprise. Well, we get to in Evan's room, and then he notices like Evan takes a picture of himself, and is like obviously him in his room. And the next picture was James bent over on his bed with his ass up in the air and was showing his ass and didn't say anything in the first.
So James sent basically a nude photo to Evan. Again, what is this friendship? I don't know about you guys, but I don't send nudes to my friends like that, right? I mean, unless we're talking about that kind of friend, you guys know what I mean? Then yeah, everybody can send nude to that kind of friend. But what kind of friendship is James and Zach having here? I am so confused.
First picture. Then message is like, how do you like that, daddy?
How do you like that, daddy? How do you like that, daddy? Whew.
do you feel like James Charles was assisting Evan because he had empathy for him?
I feel that James Charles was helping him out because he wanted a relationship with Evan Johnson.
A physical relationship.
Physical relationship.
So that's the thing. He wanted somewhat physical relationship with Evan Johnson. I want to take a pause here and say that James Charles identifies as a gay man. Just saying, right? And from what we know, Evan Johnson is a straight man. From what we know, he could be bi, he could be into men now, but from what we know, he is a straight man. Another pattern of James is that he goes after straight men. This was revealed a couple of years ago in another YouTube video that went super massive from a woman named Tati. She revealed that James has tendency to go after straight men. I don't give a fuck, straight, gay, bi, I don't care. The point is James behaved horribly when it came to his friend Kayla. Whether or not James is straight, gay, whether or not Evan is straight, gay, that doesn't freaking matter. Because this behavior should not be tolerated by anybody. To kind of make all these allegations more like believable, of course, because we don't want to go on the internet and just like accuse people of misbehaving when there's no proof, right? We don't want to do that. We don't spread misinformation here. So there was a lot of text messages, a lot of Snapchat screenshots, a lot of photos, a lot of location screenshots to make sure that this story is believable, because we just don't want to be in a situation where we are just making up stuff without proof. So Zach here was able to bring all of those receipts. So this relationship between James Charles and Evan was a sexual one. It wasn't just a friend giving a friend advice. It was both of them actually going after each other for some sort of agenda and some sort of plan. In this case, James wanted this man sexually. And then in Evan's case, he wanted to be some sort of famous or be attached to some sort of fame. And Zach here clears it all up.
So let's go back a little bit to James Charles' involvement. Would it be fair to say that you felt like the nature of their relationship was definitely sexual?
It was 100% sexual.
And what kind of things did you witness?
So based off of, all of the messages of the messaging 24/7, the pictures that I, previously did not want to see, but I saw, and the video of him, in the back, and then with the saying, obviously that, getting that done. And then I knew it turned sexual because Evan was engaging back, but I felt like Evan just was like playing a game, but James was very, very serious. James started the friendship as, I'm here for you. I've been through the same kind of things.
That is called manipulating somebody. Your intentions are not to actually be friends or give this friend advice. You're trying to manipulate them. And that is so messed up. That's so messed up. Let's get back to Kayla, because something that might be a saving grace for this whole story is that James did not know that Evan was being accused of being an abusive boyfriend. So did he know? And he went after this man anyway, or did he not know? And he went after this man. So we'll see what Evan has to say about that.
Speaking to Kayla, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, there was a situation where James Charles had wanted Evan Johnson and Kayla Malik to do a promotional material for his painted company for Valentine's Day, kind of having them be a couple of some kind, probably for his blush launch or something like that. Looking back, that's obviously a little bit creepy, because knowing that the entire time he was interacting with them, he wanted Kayla out of the picture and he's really the one that wanted Evan. That's already a little bit bizarre.
Yes.
So then James had reached out to Kayla and said something along the lines of, are we still good to do this Valentine's Day project? And Kayla said, oh, so funny. Actually, we literally just broke up yesterday. Evan did some of the worst things a human being could ever do to someone to me, abused me, explained the situation. And then James said
So James came back after she said that and was like, can I have him now? Kayla thought he was
There you have it. Kayla told James about what was happening with her and Evan. And there's really no ifs, ands, or buts about this. It just is what it is. James knew about the situation and still went after this man. It is sick.
completely joking. Like, literally thought her best friend, which is, James at the time, was just joking with her, saying that.
but that's already like a really inappropriate joke.
Yeah, that's...
Even if it is, but little did we know he wasn't.
If I told my friend, this man that I was just with abused me and hurt me and did this, and this to me, and my friend said, can I have him? You are going to be deleted immediately and blocked immediately. There is no way on God's green earth for you, A, to joke about that, B, to make light of something so freaking serious, even though I told you that this man did this thing to me. Are you crazy?
So that's where I'm concerned, because also regardless of that, Kayla had already posted a live and people were discussing Evan Johnson being an abuser. It wasn't as clear, it wasn't as mainstream as it is now. But if the public knew, James knew.
Yeah.
And obviously James knew because he's admitting to helping him. What were you helping him with? You were helping him with these accusations. So James knew.
Yes.
There's no decency. There's no decency with this person. There's absolutely no decency with this person. There's nothing. You knew that man hurt this woman, your friend, and you still went after him anyway. As we're coming towards the end of this interview with Be Better and Zach here, the story just gets more and more and more salacious. One final thing that was brought up in this interview was a weekend that James and Zach spent together.
And to your knowledge, what happened between them on that weekend together?
So on that weekend, Evan had Snapchatted me, and he was laying in James's bed. And James's bed, as I can go back and think, is pretty much solid white comforter, white sheets, white pillowcases, just very, natural.
How would freaking Zach know the details of James Charles's bed unless he's seen it through Evan? How would he know that? That's insane.
And it was a very large bed because Evan snapped. It was like just woke up. He didn't have a shirt on. And he was literally in James's bed, and he was like, I was literally like, this is the nicest bed I have ever slept in. And I was
I will never understand in this generation why we must record every single thing. I don't know why we cannot keep the most private, intimate details of our lives private. I don't understand that. I like Evan did not have to take a Snapchat of him in James's bed. That's weird. That's so freaking weird to me. That is not something that I would take a photo of. But I understand if you want to take a photo of just to record it for yourself, right? Because there's a lot of things I take photos of for myself, just to have a memory of things myself. But to Snapchat it and put it for the public, that's like, I don't understand that. It doesn't make anything James and Evan did here right, but still, I don't understand why we cannot keep those super, 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 super intimate moments with our people that we're sharing them with private.
And then after they returned from their trip together, did Evan inform you of anything that happened between them?
yes. So it took me a lot to get it out because I was like, Evan, I know the conversations that you guys have had. I've seen pictures. I know you've engaged back. I know the comments that he's said to you, Evan. I was like, what, did anything happen? He's like, no. Like, but it was like a no, like, just yes and no kind of thing. And I was like, just tell me. So later that evening, one night, he ended up like wanting to go drink. I didn't really drink that much. And he actually drank and got pretty wasted. So I was like, so what all happened? Like, what'd you guys get to do? Like, what'd y'all do? And he was like, well, all we done was off together.
I'm going to assume, and this is just my assumption, because I don't have any stake in this game. I don't think that they just jerked off together. I don't think they just jerked off together. They probably did more than that. But that's nor here, nor there. But it gets worse.
And I was like, okay. And then he goes, money's money. Made the comment, money is money.
Well, that's a bizarre comment.
Yeah, so.
Money is money. Money is money. People will do anything for money. So it comes to the question of, was there some sort of engagement to get money for sex on James's part? We don't know. We don't know.
I was confused with that. Then shortly after, where he was so drunk, there is, let's just say, something on his phone, and they did have sex.
So Evan had gotten drunk and then showed you on Snapchat or on his phone. There is like a quick clip.
Yes.
I spoke too soon, but it turns out they had sex. James was having sex with his friend's ex-boyfriend who was super abusive to her. That's how low of a person James is. That's how low he is as a human being. Sick.
It was a very quick clip, and it was actually on Snapchat in his memories, but it was saved as camera roll for some odd reason.
And you believe this video depicted James Charles and Evan Johnson having sex?
Oh, yes. 100%. You can hear 100%. It was
What did
obviously.
you hear in the video?
You can hear what? You can hear what? This is crazy.
So in the video, you could hear James calling Evan daddy and
Oh my God. Not daddy. And doing what?
moaning. Very, very disturbing.
And moaning. That's what he said. That's what Zach said, guys. And moaning. Dear.
Like me thinking right now, I can picture it still. It's something I was like, oh, I was not expecting that. But when Evan comment back, money's money. So allegedly, I mean, I'm sure there was lots of money involved.
Like I said before, straight or not straight, Evan being straight or not straight, James being gay or not gay, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, he literally betrayed his friend who was hurt by this man for a long, long time. And he still went after him. That is below human behavior. That's below human behavior. Obviously, the interview between Zach and Be Better was very explosive. There's a lot of mess in there. There's a lot of details in there. If you want to watch the entire interview with more context, you can watch it below. I will have the link down below. So how did James react to that huge interview between Be Better and Zach? According to Be Better, this is what he had to say. And for those of you who are just listening, the text says, James Charles is trying to silence us. And Be Better goes on to say this.
So I just wanted to let you guys know that James Charles is officially trying to get my video banned from YouTube. I have now received several messages from people saying that they either cannot access the video or when they search it, it doesn't pop up. I will include screenshots here. I cannot say I'm surprised. YouTube at the end of the day is a corporation, and the products that they sell is the content and their true customers for the advertisers. And James Charles makes them millions of dollars every year. He's probably the number one creator in the beauty space. If you think that he doesn't have the ability to call it a favorite to just say, hey, guys, can you turn the volume down on this one post?
To be completely honest here, James probably does have that poll at YouTube, but every YouTuber does have like an assistant at YouTube. At least every huge creator has an assistant at YouTube that helps them with YouTube and what's going on within uploading and not uploading things. If anything happens like that, they do have an assistant to help them at YouTube. Whether or not James is saying, hey, make sure this video doesn't do as well, is a whole nother story. Because something that I noticed about this video is that the interview itself did not perform very well. I would assume that it would have, because it's a very, very big interview. It's a pretty big deal. It's a top trending thing, especially on TikTok. I assume that it would be in the millions by now, but it's not. So to have it not perform so well on YouTube kind of makes it seem like James probably was saying, hey, again, we don't really know that, but what are the chances that James is actually doing this? Probably really, really high.
It's mutually beneficial for both YouTube and James for him to continue to be able to make the money and for them to in turn protect his reputation. Can't say I'm surprised. Super disappointing to know that YouTube, I guess, supports domestic violence, supports silencing victims, supports protecting predators.
Okay, I don't know about all of this. Be Better. I hate it when people make huge assumptions like this based on one instance. All of a sudden YouTube supports this and that. And we don't really know that. We don't really know if YouTube is doing anything. We don't know if James is doing anything. And I don't like to accuse people of doing anything. And just because if they are doing this does not mean that YouTube supports this types of behavior. Okay. Like, I hate making assumptions like that. Is it bad if they're silencing the video? Yes. But is it bad to also assume that YouTube is trying to is supporting abusive. No, come on, stop.
Very upsetting. You can be expecting to receive a letter from my lawyer in the morning. And beyond that, as a result of this, I'm going to be posting the entire interview on TikTok. It is 55 minutes, but I think it's worth.
After I shot my video, James did make a response video addressing all the allegations in the interview with Be Better and Zach. This is what he had to say.
I do not support Evan Johnson in any way, shape, or form. Let me make that fucking clear. I don't support him. I don't support violence against women, and I sure as hell do not support the disgusting, deplorable, violent, heinous acts that he committed against Kayla Malik behind closed doors. I really fucking hope and pray that when this goes to court this week, Kayla gets justice for what that man put her through. At the same time, the videos that I'm currently seeing all over my For You page are disturbing to me. This is not TikTok tea and drama for everyone else's entertainment. This is real people dealing with some really serious shit. The conversation has completely shifted focus away from Kayla Malik and how she was brave enough to speak out about what she went through to how James Charles involved, the downfall, By Sister 2.0, where's the apology video? It's distracting from the actual issue at hand, which is domestic violence. I have not spoken out about this for a couple of different reasons. The main one being, this is going to court this week. Anything I or anybody else says online can and probably will be used by either Evan's defense attorney or the judge to affect the outcome of its ruling. And I didn't want to put Kayla at any risk for that. I hate that I'm getting online and filming this video right now, but I truthfully have no other choice because I've also spent the last several weeks trying to get in contact with the only person involved in this that actually matters and needs to hear the truth, and that's Kayla Malik. And she has been unwilling to have a conversation with me. And frankly, I don't fucking blame her. After I watched the laughable interview between Be Better and Zach Sellers, I wouldn't want to have a conversation with me either if I was being fed complete bullshit lies and misinformation from the person whose only source of information is the same man that lied to and abused me for 9 months straight. At this point, I have no choice other than to get online, tell my story, and then prove my story to be true in a court of law. I am suing Zach Sellers and anybody else that thinks it's funny or entertaining to get online and spread defamatory and slanderous lies, misinformation, completely bullshit made up stories for the sake of views, likes, engagement, and galaxies. I'm done. This all started at the beginning of 2025 when I reached out to Kayla about her and Evan being in a Valentine's Day video together. She told me she couldn't. She was crashing out because they had just broken up because he was crazy. I tried to lighten the mood a little bit and make a lighthearted joke asking could I have him now, and then asked what actually happened between them. All she told me was that he did awful things to her and that I would find out more in her 30-part TikTok series. She said she was upset that she helped build his platform based off of lies and abuse, and whenever she was healed, she was going to get online and expose him. I'm going to be so honest, I did not take this conversation very seriously, and obviously, now knowing what we all do, I fucking should have. Reading it back now, it is super clear that she was using humor to cope, and that is perfectly fine and valid. But at the time, I genuinely interpreted these messages as a messy breakup. Maybe he cheated, maybe they got into a drunken argument that ended badly. I could have never imagined what she was actually going through behind the scenes. A lot of Kayla's own friends and family have said they had no idea what she was going through. I wish I could go back in time and been there for her, tried to help her. I wish that I would have asked more questions, but frankly, I didn't feel comfortable doing so. First and foremost, she obviously wasn't ready to talk about it yet based on her last message. And secondly, me and Kayla Malik just weren't close friends. I don't say that to take away from her feelings about this. I don't say that to undermine what she went through. We've only met a couple of times. We collabed in 2023. She guest starred on a podcast with me in 2024, and we hung out at our mutual friend's Halloween party back in October. We've never hung out one-on-one. We've never had a deep conversation. I just really didn't know her that well to be able to interpret these messages and have a better idea of what was actually happening behind closed doors. And I wish more than anything I did because I should have never gotten involved with this, but I did not know what she was going through. I really fucking hate to admit it, but I did have a brief friendship with Evan Johnson that started and ended well before I ever learned about any of the violence that was going on behind the scenes. He reached out to me a couple of days later asking me for advice and told me the same exact story that Zach Sellers believed and then repeated on the Be Better podcast, which was that the relationship was toxic, they both said things and did things that they shouldn't have, and a bunch of other stories that genuinely made me believe Evan Johnson was the victim in the situation. He told me that he moved back to Nashville to go to church and get therapy and try to become a better man, and he seemed vulnerable. He seemed real, and he seemed scared that Kayla was going to get online and start telling lies about him, and he knew exactly what to say to relate it back to a situation that I was in that made me have sympathy for him and be on his side. I feel so fucking dumb for ever believing him, but when I was in a similar situation, all I cared about was anybody treating me like a human being and hearing me out and being there for him, so that's what I tried to provide. We became closer, we would start FaceTiming, he was very suicidal and depressed, and eventually he told me that he wanted to come out to LA to escape and get his mind off of things for a weekend, so I invited him out. All we did was sit on the couch, order food, watch movies, but over the course of the weekend, I slowly started to notice that some of his stories were not exactly lining up. There were inconsistencies, and I started to get worried that I might be on the wrong side of things, and that was confirmed as soon as Kayla noticed that he was at my house and I had to lie to her. I didn't know what to do. I realized then that I was in the middle of a very fucking messy situation that I should have never gotten involved with in the first place, but this man was staying with me, and I didn't know how to get out of it. Later on that night, I told Evan straight up I was uncomfortable, I was upset that I had to lie to her, and that we could not hang out any further. He respected that, and the next morning, he flew home. As soon as Evan left LA, I immediately started making myself unavailable to him because I recognized that he was not the man he was telling me he was. But it wasn't until a month later, when Kayla uploaded her video, He Doesn't Love You, that I actually got to sit and watch how much of a monster he is. My jaw was on the floor for all 2 hours of that video. I could not believe what I was watching and seeing. The horrendous verbal abuse, the violent physical abuse. I was shocked. I was ashamed for not taking me and Kayla's conversation more seriously. I was embarrassed for ever believing that man's lies and manipulation, and I was angry with myself that I ever allowed that man into my home. It was horrifying, and I'm so proud of Kayla for being able to speak up. A couple of days later, I started getting messages on Instagram from Zach Sellers, Evan's best friend, basically warning me that Evan had lied to both of us and telling me that I should cut him off. I didn't see these messages at first until he made a public TikTok accusing me of still supporting Evan behind the scenes, and I messaged him right away because I was confused. His messages genuinely seemed nice. He seemed like he was checking in, warning me to make sure that I was okay and have cut Evan off because he knew that we were both told the same exact lies and stories from Evan. The only reason he even knew I was involved at all was because he was physically with Evan as his best friend, supporting him every single day. It took me 3 days with Evan to realize that something wasn't right here. It took Zach 3 months. So to act this way privately and then to get online as as if I'm some monster was wild to me. What started off as a video of James Charles supporting Evan Johnson behind the scenes snowballed into more videos, more content, and then live streams. Every single night, Zach has been live asking for galaxies in exchange for showing more receipts. He's been asking his followers for their cities and locations so he can go on tour with Kayla after this is all over with. He's even been asking for donations on PayPal to fund a merch line. This has nothing to do with getting justice for Kayla and everything about making an opportunity for himself. And the perfect one came along when Be Better flew him out to Canada for their podcast interview. Aside from the timeline that I just told you guys, everything else in that hour-long episode is complete bullshit. To start rumors about somebody online is one thing. Unfortunately, I know that comes with the job, but to publicly accuse them of prostitution is ridiculous. There is no proof, no evidence of any of the ridiculous claims that Zach is making because they did not happen, which is why I have no choice other than to take legal action. But before I do that, I want to quickly take a second and clear the air on some things that have really set me over the edge. First and foremost, Evan Johnson and I did not, in any way, shape, or form, have a physically sexual relationship. We did not have sex while he was here, and I did not, under any circumstances, pay Evan Johnson for sexual favors. Not in person, and certainly not online through a secret OF account where I'm apparently funding his entire life. That is absurd. Not that it's anybody's business, but I do have an OF account. I'm a grown adult. I barely use it, but Zach, if you would like to see, I will gladly send you a screenshot of my transaction history. I have nothing to hide, and I have not sent Evan Johnson $1 single. Zach claims to know all this information to be true because he pressured Evan into getting drunk and telling him what happened on the trip. I don't know if Evan lied to him to make the trip seem more fun and exciting, or if Zachy literally just made this up for funsies. I would like to believe that that isn't the case and that he was manipulated in this situation as well, but he claims to have seen a video on Evan's phone of him having sex with me. Zach, post it.
So make of that and everything that James just said what you will. Do we believe him? Do we not believe him? But I'm glad that he was able to finally set the record straight and make things a little bit clear. Whether or not you're on Team James or Team Be Better and Zach, that's going to be up to you. But this story is now out there. Let's go back to the video. I do want to point out a take that this creator made when it comes to canceling men versus women. And it's a pretty good one.
Okay, I want to talk about something that's not so fun. And that is the rampant misogyny that is involved in the gay male community. And we can see this so clearly with what's currently going on with James Charles. So local gay Jimmy Neutron over there has been accused multiple times of allegedly having inappropriate interactions with minors. And throughout these multiple allegations has survived on social media with a massive platform on here of like 40-something million followers, including...
For some reason, people are still following him. For some reason. I've never cared for James Charles. I'm not a big beauty makeup guru person, so I never really cared for him. And then after all the controversies that came out, I was like, fuck this guy, you know? So James is canceled to me. I just don't know about anybody else.
Very successful makeup line. Whereas someone like Colleen Ballinger, the woman who created the Miranda Sings character, also got dragged for inappropriate behaviors with children with that character. And her career obliterated.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's going to be...
Colleen Ballinger is done. She's done. I haven't heard anything from her. I don't even know if she's creating any new content. I don't even know what she's doing right now. She's canceled. Canceled for life.
Really interesting, sad, and appalling, but interesting nonetheless to see what happens with this current drama surrounding James Charles.
That's it. That's the 100th million controversy of James Charles, and this time it's just so much worse than anything that he's probably ever. And this time, again, like that man just said, I hope he gets into a lot of trouble, and I hope he gets canceled for real, for real. I did not talk about Kayla in this video because that whole story is too traumatic and it's too much, and I can't get into it. I literally cannot handle that. And my channel is not about super heavy topics like that. To conclude Kayla's story, as far as I know, as far as today as I'm sitting here recording,
he's doing a year and a half. And I know a lot of people are like, oh, he deserves a lot more time. Trust me, I know. But the max sentence that you can get in the state of Tennessee, I'm pretty sure, for domestic assault, it's a misdemeanor A, if I'm not mistaken, and the max sentence for that is a year. On top of that, he had probation violation and a DUI, so max he could face, like max for all of those charges, was 5 years. And if we took it to trial and fought for it, could have gotten 5 years, but a year and a half is him serving the full sentence for me plus some time. So I was like, fuck it, so yeah, he pled guilty and they sentenced him to a year and a half. So they
and he's going to jail. So that's amazing. We love that. We love justice being served. when it comes to behaviors like this. I hope he rots in jail, though, because that man is crazy, and so is James. And that's all the story that I have.